Everybody, welcome to what's new in March 2023 for Qlik Cloud. There'll be a description inside the YouTube video that'll take you to a link to a Patreon page where you can, for free, download the document that supports this YouTube. These are the things that have been updated in this latest lot for March. So I'll just go through these really quickly. There's some better management using SCIM. There's a update to Databricks using an ML flow connector, and we'll talk about what that is when we get there. You can change file formatting directly in Qlik Catalog, although I tried it and I couldn't do very much with it, so not really that useful, I think. Model filtering in Qlik AutoML has improved. There were a lot of checkboxes before, now it's drop downs, which will make life a little bit simpler. There's some new authentication methods for connecting into Azure, and I think that's really good, and we'll talk about that in the page. Same kind of thing happening with BigQuery and MongoDB, so we'll have a look at that. We've got for Qlik Cloud for government, that's US, and because I'm not in the US, I won't cover that off particularly. Monitoring capacity is important. That's available in the management console now. Some of the options for charging inside Qlik Cloud relate to capacity as opposed to licenses, so that's important to get your head around when you start to use those capacity pieces that'll need additional charges. Improved user management in the management console. There's just been some rearranging there to make it a little bit simpler to change someone from being, and say, analyzer to professional. It's pretty simple, but I'll show you that. Administrators can now set up with a new role the ability for some users who are professional to be able to create content, and other users won't be able to create content. So that's helpful. You can also ingest warehouse data from third-party solutions, which is kind of nice. Chart monitoring is available. What that does, it puts it into your catalog. You can have a particular chart you want to see regularly, and you can have that spread up in your catalog space. I'll show you an example of that. You can add dataset names with time-specific variables when you're generating stuff for AutoML. Nick, going to talk about the Qlik government. We all, I think, know about Qlik application automation, so that's a good thing. And there's some better system performance by telling Qlik not to index search fields at the time of a load. As I mentioned, Qlik now supports SCIM for Microsoft Azure Active Directory, or Azure AD as usually called. The advantages of that system is that it makes user management easier, it improves some security, and it's really quite a powerful thing, and something that I've not seen in Qlik before. It's some really good visual instructions on how to make this work into the help area. You can see the steps that are needed, and as you go through each of those steps, you'll see there's configure Qlik Cloud for SCIM, and then you'll see there's configuring it on the Azure side and so on. It's really well together and really easy to follow through the steps. So you'll see here, just at the beginning, it's saying, okay, you need to go in here to the management console, and then it gives you each of the steps that you need on the way through. I like it. So Databricks has set up a thing called ML Flow, which is an open source piece that looks after the pieces and the steps that are around managing machine learning flows. And there's two of those. There's an open source version and there's a commercial option. And Qlik now connects into ML Flow to make life somewhat similar simpler for us. Okay, in catalog now, there's some talk in the release notes around being able to change file format. I took that to mean if I had a CSV, I could potentially turn it into an Excel format. I think I was a little naive in that, and I'm not really sure that there's much happening in the file format area, but it's there, and it may well get a little bit easier to use. I didn't see a lot of value in it at the moment. When you're making an ML model, Qlik's improved the way the models can be filtered so that you can look at them easier. Previously, there were a lot of checkboxes, and those checkboxes have now become downs that are a little bit easier to use. There's some new authentication methods, and that's really quite powerful in terms of data governance because it allows each individual user, it's a professional user that needs to get data out of Azure. They can have their own authentication, their own connection in, and that can be dealt with automatically. So that's really quite powerful, and that works both in SQL database and also Synapse Analytics. Similar things happened for Google BigQuery and MongoDB, so exactly the same kinds of ideas. You can have um, credentials for individual users, and because you've given them that, you can have different levels of governance about what people can and can't see. It's moving a little bit towards some capacity charging for various pieces, for example, automations, and they've added in this month, they've added to the ability to monitor the capacity usage. And that's in the very top, when you're in the management console, there's a sample of it sitting underneath there. It also made it a little bit easier to manage users. And the example I've got here is Aiden is an analyzer user. I can very easily change him to be a professional user. And that's all on the one screen now. That used to be something more difficult to get to. It's also possible to have professional users and not allow them to add private content to Qlik Cloud, so they can't build their own inside their personal spaces. They can't build apps and data connections. You can give them rights to do other things, but you can't give. Now they won't have the rights to do that. So that's a possibility now, and you can, by default, everybody I think will have that right, and you can take it off particular people if you need to. It does appear that you can leverage warehouse data from a variety of different sources and automate that process of Qlik looking at it and grabbing updates to it. So that looks really powerful. And this has been available for quite a long time, the ability inside the catalog to monitor particular charts. Let's Here's my example here. This is around earthquakes because I kind of like analyzing earthquakes. And this particular chart is in my catalog area, and I can go and have a look at it. You can also add timestamps to the ML prediction datasets, and it's a really simple format to do that. Couple of open braces, break format, and close braces. So that's all good fun. And the last one is by default, when you start up an application, search index files are created when the data is reloaded. That can be postponed a little bit till people start using the application, and it'll make it a little bit faster to reload the data, and it'll also make it a little bit less intense on system performance. Now, that's all of the pieces for this month. As always, please enjoy, please subscribe and like. And if you've got people you want to share it with, that would be good. As I mentioned, there'll be a link in the descriptions of the video that take you to a Patreon page where you can download the Word doc that's, or as a PDF, the document that's related to this. Thanks very much, and I'll see you on the next one.